So just when you think that the Nintendo news was bad enough, it manages to get even worse. So I'm pretty sure that some of you folks have seen this already, but for those of you who weren't aware, let me catch you up to speed real quick. So Nintendo has recently come out with their newest terms of service and they updated it, and it's not gone over too well with people. So I do want to talk about a couple of things just to save people some time, and I want to highlight the important parts of this and what people are really worried about. Now, before I do talk about this stuff, I do want to say this. I think the whole reason why Nintendo is updating their terms of service is because they're trying to get themselves ready for the Nintendo Switch 2. And they want to try to get themselves prepared, and they want to make sure that they have all the power so that way they can't get in any legal trouble. So if the Switch 2, God forbid, if it launches with Joy-Con drift and people try to sue them, no, they can't do that because they want to have all the legal power. So this is also, I believe, gonna happen on the original Switch as well. I could be wrong about that part, but at least from my understanding, Nintendo wants to try to have a backup plan in case if they ever run into some legal trouble. So Nintendo has updated their terms of service, and basically people are not happy with Nintendo, which go figure. And the biggest worries that people have right now with Nintendo's newest terms of service is Nintendo has the ability to brick your goddamn Switch. You basically have no rights to sue Nintendo, and they're basically confirming that, yeah, you own no digital games that you buy. It's just awful. So the first part I do want to talk about in this discussion is going to be the part where Nintendo bricks your Switch. So basically, in a nutshell, if you violate Nintendo's terms of service, they can basically have the right to brick your Switch, making it permanently inaccessible, which is fucking ridiculous. So if you, let's say, try to either jailbreak or you try to homebrew the Switch or try to modify it in any way, even if you try to mod it, even Nintendo's gonna be like, "Nuh-uh, you're not allowed to do that. We're gonna shut off your Switch permanently." Now, the way I see this part is it just makes no sense to me because there are some people out there that like to modify their Switch, whether it be through homebrewing the Switch, whether it be through modding the Switch or jailbreaking it even, just to get access to a different variety of games, or they want to try to improve their Switch or modify it so it can run at a better frame rate. Now, if you were playing like a multiplayer game against people like, let's say, Smash Brothers or like Splatoon 3, and you're using like mods or cheats to cheat in a video game, then that would be a little more understandable. It would be like, oh hey, if you're playing against a person in like an online ranked match, for example, of, let's say, Smash Brothers, and you decide to use mods to cheat in a video game, then yeah, your Switch is getting permanently banned. That part I can understand. But however, if you're just playing with friends through like a local network, or if you're doing like a private match with friends and you want to try to mod your Switch for the funsies, then there's no real harm there because you're both playing with mods on your Switch and you're playing for fun. There's nothing wrong with playing mods with friends or like modifying your Switch so it can run better frame rate or whatever. I'm not a technician expert, but I will say there are some people that like to modify their gaming consoles so they can get the most out of their gaming experience. Like if people want to like modify their Switch in any way, or they want to mod it or hack it just to get access to a different variety of games or mods for some of their games, then that's fine. That should be completely fine. As long as you're not physically harming people in any way, that should be fine. No harm, no foul, right? But yet Nintendo does not like that. They don't like it when people have fun. So they're basically making sure that this is a massive no-no for people, which is ridiculous to me. So the next part I want to talk about is the part that Nintendo is trying to destroy your rights to sue them. So let's just say if you had Joy-Con drift or stick drift and you want to sue Nintendo for a design flaw, you're not going to be able to do that because basically they updated their terms of service basically saying you basically have no right to sue us. So that way if there's a design flaw with our product, you can't sue us, which is outright fucking ridiculous. Now, I could be wrong about this next part, but unless you actually want to sue them, I believe you have to go onto their home turf in Japan, I believe, and sue them. I could be wrong about that part, but realistically speaking here, Nintendo is basically trying to make it so you can no longer sue them and you will have no more legal rights to sue them. So if there is stick drift on like your Nintendo Switch Lite, or if your console isn't working properly and you think it's a design flaw and you try to sue them for it, it's not gonna happen, buddy, because they're basically trying to take away your rights as a consumer just so Nintendo can cover their behinds, which is freaking ridiculous. And this is the part that drives me crazy. I mean, we've been getting a lot of anti consumer moves from other companies in the past. I mean, Ubisoft has been trying to get rid of people's consumer rights by making sure they don't own our games, which I'll talk about that part later. But Nintendo is trying to take away your rights to sue them. So you think having the right to own your video games is bad? Nintendo is trying to make it so they have full control over their product. So if you try to sue them, it's not going to happen, buddy, because you have no legal rights. And if you have any legal rights, in Nintendo's eyes, apparently it's the worst thing in human history because if God forbid you actually enjoy a product and if something's wrong with that product and if it doesn't work as intended, you could try to sue them. Nope, that's not happening, buddy. So basically Nintendo's trying to make it so you have no rights to sue them. And it's just fucking pathetic. And if Nintendo can get away with this, then companies like Activision, EA, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Sony, they can all get away with this as well if Nintendo gets away with this. So, the last part I want to talk about in this discussion is digital ownership. So, in their terms of service, Nintendo basically talked about how you have no rights to own digital games that you buy. And they clarified that any digital games you buy is a license, but yet when you go to hit the confirm purchase option, it basically still makes people think, oh, am I actually buying a digital game? But yet, Nintendo clarified that no, you do not own any digital games that you buy. You're basically renting a license. Now, I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. If I'm not buying anything, and if I'm not gonna own anything that I buy, then I'm just gonna resort to pirating the game, or I'll just resort to gaming emulation. Because if Nintendo is gonna make it so you have no rights to own digital games, then people are just going to resort to piracy and they'll play them illegally just to play the games they want, or they'll resort to gaming emulation, which is absolutely insane. And the part that drives me insane the most is the fact that digital distribution has been handled so piss poorly over the years. It's basically at the point where if you even attempt to buy a digital game, you won't own it. You basically have no control over your digital game. And it's just absolutely shocking to me because the way that some people like to buy their games, they like to buy them digitally just to save themselves the time. But one day down the line, when Nintendo has like one of their brand new consoles coming out, let's say like the Nintendo GameCube 3.0, for example, and some people want to go back to their Nintendo Switch, and if Nintendo shuts down the servers for their Switch, that means they will no longer be able to get access to any digital games that they buy. And it's absolutely just mind boggling to me because people want to preserve their games and they want to play their games over the years. Like, people want to play games like Super Mario Sunshine, or people want to play games like The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess, or Ocarina of Time. People want to play games like Super Smash Bros. Melee, and they still want to preserve their games. But yet, Nintendo wants to destroy your rights as a consumer, so you are not having any control over your product, which is fucking pathetic. And the whole idea of you owning anything, it's basically about to go out the window at this point. This whole terms of service that has been updated by Nintendo, it has been getting so much negative backlash, and rightfully so, and people deserve to have the right to own stuff. People have the right to sue companies if they think something is wrong. People have the right to own their games. But yet, Nintendo doesn't like that stuff. They want to make sure these consumers of their products have no control and no power over Nintendo. This is quite literally the moment where the straw will break the camel's back. And people need to start calling this stuff out even more, because we are now at a point with Nintendo where Nintendo's gonna have full control over the consumers, and they're gonna have full control over your products, and they're gonna have full control over everything. If we allow Nintendo to get away with this shit, the Nintendo Switch 2 has been already getting a lot of negative backlash, and Nintendo trying to take away your rights as a consumer in their updated terms of service just proves to me that, yeah, their next gen console isn't going to be worth buying. And seeing stuff like this just makes me want to avoid the Nintendo Switch 2 even more. So I feel like now is the perfect time for people like me and people like you watching this video. Now would be the perfect time to come together and give Nintendo backlash against not only their Switch 2, but more importantly, their updated terms of service, and basically tell them, no, we as consumers of your products have a right to some of this stuff, Nintendo. We have the right to own games. We have the right to sue you because what you're doing is very anti consumer, which it quite literally is. We have the right to modify hardware too. So if we buy your product, then we as consumers can have the right to modify it whenever we want, because we literally buy your hardware, which means we can modify it to our liking if we want to get better frame rate, better games, you name it. But yet, Nintendo doesn't like that. Nintendo doesn't like it when people have rights against them, and they don't like it when they call them out for this stuff. So I feel like now is the time to come together and call out Nintendo and avoid their terms of service and avoid their Switch 2. Well, I said that backwards. Now is the time to come together and avoid the Switch 2 and boycott it, and call out Nintendo for their terms of service and give them some dead serious backlash. Because at this point, what Nintendo is doing is not okay. This is some very scary news to report on, and some very unfortunate news to report on as well. So I wanted to keep you folks updated. I wanted to let you all know what's going on, because I quite honestly think that this is a very important news topic to talk about. So with this being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening, and until next time, I'm talking about Nintendo's updated terms of service, and I will see you all later.